Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Toy Story 2.
Ride like the wind, Bullseye!
Toy Story 2 is directed by John Lasseter with a screenplay by Andrew Stanton, Rita Hsiao, Doug Chamberlin, and Chris Webb, and a story by John Lasseter, Peter Docter, Eichelberger, and Andrew Stanton. The film stars Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, when Woody is stolen by a toy collector, Buzz and his friends set out on a rescue mission to save Woody before he becomes a museum toy with his Roundup gang, Jessie, Prospector, and Bullseye. Toy Story was a huge success for both Disney and Pixar. Not only was it a critical and commercial success, but left a huge impact on the world of animation. That is how big and monumental this movie was for the way in which animation can kind of leap forward into the way in which it can be more expressive and three-dimensional than it ever was and ever had been. It's very interesting to find out that this sequel in particular was originally going to be a direct-to-video film before being upgraded by Disney to a theatrical release. I had looked up this information. Yeah, originally this was going to go straight to video. I don't think most of us could ever picture Toy Story, like this franchise as a whole, going just from theatrical release to now just, you're now a tiny franchise. Like, this is like Pixar's crowning franchise. A franchise that Disney can see as profitable, yet somehow at one point they thought, we could make this kind of a niche franchise. I don't think this needs to be big, and now look where we're at now. Although faced with production issues, just like how the first movie was, because originally the idea, the pitch for this movie was so interesting for said company that Disney wanted to upgrade from its direct-to-video status to theatrical, but Pixar was kind of unsatisfied with what the movie was, so they kind of had to pretty much rework this entire movie as fast as possible for its release date. And it's kind of surprising that this has now happened twice to Pixar for such a franchise that is well beloved and well respected. It's funny and crazy to think that that is how much these last two movies have really tried to pick up the pace with regards to having to get it all out there. Pixar were able to create a sequel that, if you ask me, was spectacular, but able to match the first film's quality. I don't think anyone could ever imagine to themselves that first Toy Story was phenomenal. But could that second one really be the case? Could it actually reach the gold standard of how to do a sequel? And my answer would be yes. It's incredible and such a huge feat for Pixar to make a sequel with so much of the production issues that they had to face, and yet somehow they miraculously pulled off and made one of the best sequels to a film franchise. It's crazy. It's insane to even think about. With no negatives with this movie, and people, I'm telling you, I saw none. When I was watching this movie, I just sat there and I was just watching how this movie played out, and I was just engaged throughout. Nothing about this movie lost my interest. Here are now all my positives. The voice acting is excellent. The entire cast, along with the newcomers, match each other's energy, keeping this all fun from beginning to end. Just like with the first movie, Tom Hanks, Tim Allen. They are electrifying to watch in this movie. They work really well, and now that they are now friends, you feel that camaraderie with each other in the film, and you feel that love and passion. Having most of the returning cast be in this movie, even if it's not as big as how they were in the first movie, it's still always nice to have. And then, of course, you have newcomers like Joanne Cusack as Jessie. I think she is just a really fun and enjoyable character to have. And then, of course, you have Kelsey Grammer as the Prospector, who is just interesting type of character himself. You love how these characters are interacting with one another, and it's all really because of the voice acting from the entire cast that really brings these toys to life in such nuanced ways. The direction is phenomenal. Once again, director John Lasseter brings the same energy and momentum as the first, expanding more on the world of the toys. I like how John Lasseter still has this keen sense of expansion from starting small to then going big. It doesn't feel like you are just being thrown in there without no explanation. You just feel like you are from the toys' perspectives all the way through the end. He is able to really capture what it means to be a toy, now that with this being a sequel, to now go further beyond just like the neighborhood. You can now go into the city, and you see that in the way in which toys interact interact with how people go about their daily lives, especially when it comes to driving on the road. I don't think having toys there and interrupting that traffic is a good idea, because if this movie is showing us anything, is that they would cause mass chaos. But it's cool to see how he is able to still kind of retain with what that lightning and ball energy that he had with that first movie and still bring it along with this second movie, because that's a very hard thing to do. Can you really recapture what you did with that first movie and put it into this? And the answer is yes. He was able to do that and still keep on expanding the world of Toy Story in a way where it feels interesting and creative and just fun from how it all comes together. The animation is stunning. Upgrading upon the previous film, the detailing on the toys or the objects that they use are impressive to see. And when I mean more so like objects, I mean like when they are grabbing things, or like even the people, I will agree, have, I think, upgraded a little bit better in that they don't feel as creepy looking or a little bit out of date. In that, I do think that they were able to kind of detail some of the characters to feel a little bit more different from one another. But the toys themselves have always been the ones that they always get the little detailing so right, especially throughout the movie when you see Woody have like this sewed patch around his right arm. It's very interesting and detailed in the way in which they are able to showcase like the stuffing and the seams just being pulled out. It's incredible, groundbreaking approach in which how you would see like animation kind of evolve. And for 1999, it holds up very well. I was impressed on how much, for a movie that is now over 30 years old, it's mind boggling to think that this movie can even hold up as good as it is. And yeah, it's able to do that. It's impressive, it's stunning. There's a reason why this movie has this affinity of upping the animation quality, because each time it goes throughout, it's incredible. And from this going from the first movie, which sure some people can say is a little bit out of date, but I would argue both are still well made and well put together in its animation. But you could definitely tell with this movie that they upgrade significantly. The story is perfect. Seeing Woody being kidnapped and discover his history was both fun and fascinating as it plays out, lending for a fun adventure for the toys. The idea of going bigger for a sequel is always kind of a risky but also not so great idea, because on the one hand that idea can blossom into something spectacular, and then on the other it just kind of feels like you just went big because, well, you had to top what the last movie did. And yet this movie's story felt just like how the first movie was, but in a way where it felt big, but it wasn't to the point of being crazy and trying to outdo itself. It felt like it was just trying to continue with what was left off. And they were able to do that. They were able to carry a story where you see Woody and you understand his history of being part of this roundup group that was from the 50s and how popular he used to be. It's interesting to learn that, because most of the toys you could kind of see like where their history is, but like for Woody, most people would have thought, I'm sure cowboys were popular, but what makes Woody so special? What makes him like this driving force that everyone is so like interested by? And it's simply because he was once part of a group, and I found that to be very interesting to take things. And yet this story also is able to have fun with the toys that Buzz and Potato Head, Ham, Slinky, Rex, their adventure that they go on, I thought was really fun. It also can lend to some sad moments, especially with Jesse's story, which, yeah, as a kid, I bawled my eyes out every time. Thankfully, I didn't this time, but man, I did shed tears. The writing is top notch. Writers Stan, Hsiao, Chamberlin, and Webb creates a script that's creative and hilarious throughout, giving it the same vibes as the first. I'm glad that this script was able to kind of retain with what made that first movie so special, and here it's no exception. The script here is well written, well executed, and there is this sort of duality that this movie kind of faces with regards to how toys are seen by kids for one moment, and then as time goes on and they grow up, they're kind of forgotten. They're kind of just then abandoned and left to be made for somebody else or collecting dust. And there's this idea of immortality for toys amongst the idea of when kids get older. And I thought that was an interesting and high concept for a film of this time period, because nowadays not a lot of movies would tend to do that. unless you are Pixar. But most movies tend to not really kind of achieve that kind of talking point of like, what is the idea of toys who are living and breathing? Like, what if like their owner gets older and then they start to kind of lose their impact on the child's life? And that is a duality that this movie faces, and then you would see later on with the next film. But it's great to have this sort of idea that is well written and well spoken for in how you want to handle this, and the chemistry and the readings that are given throughout this movie, the conversations, it works very well to add to the humor of the movie while also feeling teachable for kids to understand and kind of grasp. The music is amazing. Again, composer Randy Newman brings the same melodies and riffs while expanding it with an adventure western score, making this feel grand than how the previous movie was. There is a western score because it does add to the fact that Woody was part of this roundup gang. And it does work. It fits well with how this movie kind of comes off feeling and the way in which it kind of ramps up sequences, especially some chase sequences, or rather the final act of the movie with them at the airport. I think that works extremely well, and it still captures what makes this score feeling so simple and so whimsical. And that's really because Randy Newman's able to really understand the simplicity of the toy's perspective, or rather like the simplicity of like childhood and this sort of wondrous feeling of being exciting to see this be as fun as it is. The pacing and runtime is quick. Like its predecessor, the film never stalls out and goes. With a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes, you hardly feel that length. It's crazy to think that while watching this movie, you ever feel a length of any of this film. You feel none of that. You felt like this movie went by like that. And I agree. I think this movie is just so quickly paced, but yet it doesn't feel rushed. It almost feels like it took its time in the scenes that they needed to get those crucial moments out there, and feel like there is still this sort of effortless feeling of flowing very well within itself. And it's crazy to think for a movie that faced those kind of problems behind the scenes, it's cool to see that energy still feeling throughout this film, just like how the first movie was. The production is impressive, given its behind the scenes issues, like I mentioned. It's an accomplishment of seeing the commitment and passion from everyone involved, still inspiring new animators to this day. It's almost insane and crazy to think for a movie that is widely praised and was originally designed for something else, yet it was able to pull it all off in the quick amount of time that they had to get this movie made and put out into theaters. It's astonishing. It's incredible to even think that for a movie of this caliber and its history on how it was made, similar to the first movie, you feel that inspiration. You feel that sort of vigorous feeling of wanting to not only meet that deadline, but really just understanding, harness that sort of concept, that potential that was there for the first, and just really hitting it twice. It's ingenious of the production team to really have come up with all of this in all that amount of time that they had to get this out there. The action is astonishing. Seeing the toys use the environment to help them reach places or lend to chase sequences was pretty cool, keeping things exciting to watch. There are some actual incredible sequences in this movie where it feels exciting, thrilling, if I would say. And the first movie had sequences in there, but I wouldn't argue and say like they are the most amazing, but they're still exciting to watch. But here, action sequences felt kind of fun, and chase sequences in particular were also kind of exciting to watch, and to feel that heightened tension that the movie is asking for. Even if it's for a brief moment, it's able to pull it off so well. The cinematography is solid. Cinematographer Sharon Callahan captures a fun but gorgeous film that shows the world from the toy's POV, but expands even further, allowing this to feel fluent and natural. Never in this movie do I think that this ever feels poorly made or shot terribly. This feels pristine. It's incredible. It's really cinematic in a way. in how a film of this nature was able to really feel as exciting and full of life. And it's cool to see how the camera work is handled, how it is positioning itself in certain areas. It's amazing to see how this really does feel like a movie that truly deserves to be on the big screen more so than if it was on direct to video. It would be still impressive for direct to home video, but still for the quality and how it is presented, how it is flowing, and the way in which it is capturing all of these moments, I think it definitely deserved to be on that big screen when it did. It's no surprise that Pixar knocks it out of the park. Again, expanding upon the concept without sacrificing the heart, Toy Story 2 lives up to the first in every way, becoming that rare exception of being on the same level or surpassing its predecessor. That's always the question. What is better? Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 2? I think most people kind of go back and forth. Most of the time, it'll probably be 1, but you'll get some people that will say, no, Toy Story 2, I think really becomes even better than the first movie. And that's a rare feat. That's an exception, folks. That's usually never been a statement that you hear a lot these days, and especially back in the 90s. That's very hard to find in the short amount of time that they had to get this movie made. And it's incredible. It's impossible to ever think that a movie like this could ever reach the same levels as the first, but yet somehow Pixar was able to just hit its stride and really hit the ground running and making easily one of the best animated sequels ever. I'm going to give Toy Story 2 a 10 out of 10. This movie is fantastic. It is incredible. I think there's always going to be an argument of which one is better, but if you ask me, I think they're both equal in their own right in that I love them both. And to me, I'll take that than saying like one is worse than the other and that they really fallen off. No, I think Toy Story for right now has hit its stride with 2 back-to-back movies that just hit so well, and it is incredible to watch even to this day how Pixar was able to achieve all of that in the period that they had. So I will be soon doing a review for The Bride and then Hopper. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.